It was a raining cold night in upper community. The villagers were in their homes, enjoying the calm night. But it was not the same for Obi. Obi was standing in front of his house, sweating so bad in the cold, with his heart beating so fast. Each time his wife cried out loud, he would attempt to break into the room, but the midwives would hold him back. He was pacing up and down, looking up to the heaven and praying to the gods of their land to grant his wife, who was in labor, safe delivery. After what seemed like 1,000 years to Obi, he finally heard a cry of a baby. He ran up and down jubilating and thanking the gods. He rushed into the room to see his dear wife and their baby. He went to where his dear wife Nkem was. He kissed her forehead. The midwives were busy cleaning and tidying up the baby. All of a sudden, one of them shouted at the top of her voice, "Chimo! My God, what is this?" She quickly left the baby and ran outside the room. Others rushed to where the baby was and also ran outside shouting that the villagers should come and see the strange thing their eyes saw. Obi, who was left alone in the room with his wife and his mother-in-law, went to where the baby was. He looked closer at the baby and cried out, "What is this? What is my eyes seeing?" He turned to his wife asking, "What did you give birth to? A male or female? What did you deliver and came?" Obi's mother-in-law, after examining the baby, let out a cry, covering her mouth with her hands. Nkem was struggling to get up from the ground where she delivered, but she was too weak to rise. Her mother ran to her, asking her to remain where she was, that she would bring the baby to her. When Nkem's baby was brought to her, after seeing her baby, she started crying, asking her mother what went wrong. How it was even possible for a baby to have both a vagina and a penis. Her mother was consoling her and telling her maybe the evil ones bewitched her baby. The three were in the room crying, including the innocent baby who needed his mother's care and attention at the moment. The joy turned to sadness. It became a sad moment and night for Obi and his family. They just sat crying, looking at the baby. Before they knew what was happening, their house was crowded and surrounded by the people of upper community. Obi quickly locked his front door to prevent the villagers from coming inside his house. Nkem's mother and Obi picked up from where the midwives stopped. They put on some clothes on the baby, cleaned up Nkem and put her on the bed to catch some sleep. When daybreak, the villagers returned to Obi's compound, demanding to see the monster his wife brought into the world. This time around, the chief priest of upper community was present. Obi refused to open his front door until the king arrived and gave orders that his door should be put down. The king's guards broke down the door. The king ordered that Obi and his wife, together with the baby, be brought out from the room. The baby's cloth was removed. The villagers shouted so loud when they saw the baby had both penis and vagina. Some spat at Nkem, who was looking so weak and heartbroken. After the villagers were satisfied, the king asked that the baby should be taken away from the mother and be given to the chief priest to know what the gods said about the baby. The chief priest carried the baby, raised the baby up to the sky, chanted incantations while the whole villagers remained silent. When he was done, he turned to the king and said to him that the gods have answered, that the gods gave two conditions. First, the gods said the child is not an ordinary child and must not be allowed to associate with them. And the gods said that this can only be achieved in two ways. Either the parents sacrifice the baby to the gods, or they bring the baby to the shrine where he must grow alone, serving the gods all his life without associating with other villagers. When Nkem heard the god's message, she threw herself on the ground, pleading with the king and the chief priest to please let her have her baby and raise him on her own. The villagers started laughing at her. They were questioning her why she would address the baby as a he when the baby has two sexual organs. Some told her They are not even sure the baby is a human. The king signaled to everyone to remain quiet. He told Obi and his household that they have heard what the gods said about their child, that he would be giving them just 6 days to decide. The king told the villagers present at Obi's house to leave the compound and go back to their respective homes and return in 6 days' time. During this period, Obi and his family became topic of discussion throughout Upper community. Those that didn't see the said monster baby themselves were pained. They swore they must be in Obi's compound in the next 6 days. Nkem's mother, who came for Omugo to assist his daughter with the newborn baby, was bullied and treated with so much disrespect every time she goes to market to buy foodstuffs. Some traders even refused to sell their goods to her. She would come home with a heavy heart. When it became so hard for her to buy things from Upper community market, she started going to other neighboring communities to buy foods for themselves. It was also difficult for Obi. Nobody wanted to associate with him, even his brothers and most of his friends. Each time his friends see him coming, they all would leave the place. It was a difficult period for Obi's family. They were all treated like an outcast. The family was in sorrow. All they do was cry and questioning the gods. They were in dilemma, despite the fact their child was tagged a monster and abnormal. Obi and his family loved their baby so much. When they look at their baby, all they see was an innocent looking baby, full of life. When they remember the two options they were left with, they would break down in tears. They can't afford to lose their baby. They were lost in thoughts. They didn't know what to do or who to run to, because all their friends and extended families have abandoned them. No matter how they look and consider the two options, killing their precious baby was out of it for them. Obi asked his wife Nkem if it's not better they do away with the baby so that they can have their normal lives back, and after that they will try for another baby. Nkem cried and refused, telling her husband that if anything happens to her child, she would die with her child as well. The D-Day was fast approaching. On the 4th day, Obi decided to pay a visit to his bosom friend Ugu. He waited till nightfall before he left his house to Ugu's house, because he was afraid of the hateful and insulting remarks from the villagers. When he got to Ugu's house, Ugu welcomed him. He asked Ugu to please advise him on what to do because he was really confused. Ugu told him that if it was him, Ugu, he would have handed the child over to them to kill, and after that everything would return to normal, that he would bear another child after, that his suggestion is the best and easier for that particular situation. Ugu told Obi that if he looked at the two conditions the chief priest presented to them deeply, he would observe that the two options would end up taking their child's life, because if the child is taken to the shrine with nobody to take care of him, the child would die eventually, and it would be more painful to Obi and his family. Throughout the time Ugu was speaking, Obi was quiet, listening to him and using one of his hands to wipe tears away from his face. He thanked his friend Ugu for his thoughtful advice and left. Throughout that night, Obi couldn't sleep. He would stand up from his bed, go into the room where his lovely wife and their baby were sleeping. He would watch them sleep. His heart was heavy and was beating so fast. The last thing he would ever wanted was for anything to happen to his dear wife. He would go back to his room. When day broke, the moment his wife and his mother-in-law woke up, he called them and told them what he had decided. He told them that, looking at the two options they were left with critically, they will notice that the gods of their land want the death of their child, and that must not happen. He told them that they must leave Upper community on notice to a very far land where nobody knows them and their history as well, and start a new life. Nkem and her mother were shocked. It was a tough decision. All their lives, They have never left Upper Kingdom. This is the only life they know. Obi's mother-in-law, after much thought, asked Obi if he was sure of what he was saying and knows exactly the consequences. Obi told her that his mind was already made up. His mother-in-law asked him again if he was aware he would leave behind everything he owns and possessed, all that he had ever worked for in his life behind, and his extended family would take over his properties. Obi told his mother-in-law that what matters at the moment was the safety of his wife and child. He begged his mother-in-law to please go back to her house, and not mention a word of this to anybody until they must have left Upper Community. Nkem and her mother broke down in tears. The mother swore she wasn't going to leave her daughter all alone in that terrible condition. She would go anywhere her daughter goes, because she was all she had left after she had lost her husband. They all agreed they would be leaving Upper Community by nightfall. They started putting into the bags the necessary things they might be needing for their journey. They were all shedding tears while they packed their things. The next day, the people of Upper Community were running to Obi's house. His compound was crowded. They were calling Obi and his wife Nkem to stop hiding with their monster baby and open their front door. When the king and the chief priest arrived, the king ordered his guards to break down Obi's front door and go fetch Obi and his wife. When they pulled down the door, they went inside but came out without Obi and his family. They told the king that nobody was in that house. They searched the entire house but didn't see anybody. They were all angry and disappointed. The king, after thinking hard, laughed and said Obi thought he would outsmart them. He ordered his guards again to go to Obi's mother-in-law's house and bring them to him in his palace. The king left Obi's house to his palace. The villagers scattered. Some went back home. Some went to the palace to wait for Obi and his family, while some followed the guards to Obi's mother-in-law's house. While all this was going on, Obi and his family was already far gone from Upper Community. They have passed some other neighboring communities, but they refused to settle in any of them because of fear of being seen one day by someone from their community. They would stop in a bush, put on fire, and prepare meal for themselves. They continued this way till they got to one big community on the fourth day. The land was fruitful and beautiful. They decided to settle in that kingdom. Obi constructed one small wooden house inside one of the bushes where he stayed with his family. He would always leave every day in search of food. He would hunt, work for some villagers in exchange for food. He was noticed quickly by some villagers. They loved him for his hard work and honesty. One day, Obi went to hunt in a very far place. He hunted down a lion. He was very happy. He hung the dead lion on his shoulder and started heading home. When the villagers saw him, they started singing him praises, calling him Obuagu, the lion's killer. The villagers were happy because finally, Obi has killed the lion that has been disturbing the entire community. Obi took the dead lion to the palace and offered it to the king as a gift. The king was impressed. It was the first time anyone was offering him a lion. He wanted to know more about Obi. Obi, who was scared they might ask them to leave their kingdom, lied to the king that war broke out in his community and he escaped with his family. The king, after listening to his story, gave him a piece of land close to the palace to build a hut and start living with his family. He told his people that Obi and his family have become part of them and must be respected. Their lives changed for better. Not just that they were accepted into the kingdom, they were highly respected for Obi's bravery. He became close friends with the king. The king doesn't joke with Obi and his family. Obi and the Nkem's child grew up to become a handsome young man. They named him Obi Efuna. His parents made sure nobody get to see him with his pants down. When he grew up, his parents let known to him their journey to that kingdom and the need for him to protect and hide his private parts from others. This troubled Obiefuna so much. He avoided having female friends. The only female friends he had was his grandmother, his mother, and the king's daughter he grew up together with. Him and the king's daughter were best of friends since their childhood. They do almost everything together. Obiefuna avoided going intimate with his beautiful girlfriend for fear of being rejected and exposed. The king's daughter started getting suitors. She wasn't pleased with any of them. Her parents became worried when she kept on rejecting suitors. One day, when she was alone with Obiefuna, she asked him why he doesn't want to marry her. Is it that he doesn't love her enough to want to make her his wife, or he has someone else better than her? Obiefuna was heartbroken. He left her there and ran home. For days, he remained indoor. He refused to eat anything. He asked his father what he must do. The princess, on her own part, became sad, heartbroken by Obiefuna's reaction. She would cry herself to sleep, especially when she remembers she has been rejecting suitors because she had thought Obiefuna loved her so much and would want to marry her. 2 weeks after, Obiefuna went to the palace to see the princess, but the princess ordered the guards to ask him to leave the palace. Obiefuna kept visiting the palace but doesn't get to see the princess. He knew that the only other way to see the princess was to go to the stream where the princess and her maids shower. That blessed day, he went to the stream earlier to wait for the princess. When the princess and her maids got to the stream, they met Obiefuna. The princess became angry and meant to go back, but Obiefuna ran after her pleading, asking her to please give him a chance to explain. Finally, the princess asked her maids to go back to the palace, that she would be on her way. Obiefuna, with tears in his eyes, told the princess how much he loved her, that he had never loved any other woman the way he loved her. He told her he would want to show her something. He dragged her to the stream, pulled down his pants, and let the princess see him. He was expecting the worst, but the princess' reaction shocked him. The princess ran up to him, hugged him tight, and told him she loved him beyond his physical appearance. Both of them were in tears. The princess promised him she would never utter a word of what she saw to anybody. They both kissed each other passionately and consummated their love. This brings our story to an end. Did you enjoy our story? If you do, please kindly subscribe. Leave a like as well. Tell us what you think about this video in the comment section. Thank you so much for your time. Bye.